Osu's ranking system is pretty simple. To gain rank, you need to get PP, otherwise known as performance points. These points are accumulated through playing ranked beatmaps, and the harder the map, the more you will get. Well, that's what the game wants you to think, because throughout the game's history, there have been numerous reworks to circumvent people from abusing the system and gaining more than they should be, an issue that is still prevalent to this day. So let's look at the evolution of Osu's ranking system, every single important PP rework, and how the meta has changed over the course of 17 years. Before we continue, please subscribe, it helps me out a lot. Okay, enjoy the video. The first implementation of a ranking system in Osu was the old rank scoring system. It was simple. Basically, it took your highest score on a beatmap set and totaled them up. For example, if you had a higher score on a hard diff instead of the insane diff, that was counted for ranked score. This was eventually changed at some point to include all difficulties collectively. On the 24th of July 2012, the system known as PPV1 officially replaced the ranked scoring system as the main ranking system. This ranking system was received pretty well at first, but as time went on, many people in the community saw its glaring flaws. Things like the higher you placed on a map's leaderboard, the more PP you would get, meant getting number 1 on a hard map would give you more PP than getting an FC on an insane map. And if the map was more popular, you received more score. Obviously, the accuracy, mods, and how hard the map was also had some effect, but it was still strange. That wasn't the only issue though, since it factored in the positions of someone's play in the leaderboards. When a play was set, it would stop giving out PP about after a year, meaning you can play any map you want, but you have to be actively setting new top PP plays, otherwise your rank would start to fall. However, while this may be frustrating for a current day player, back in the day, players used to enjoy being active and setting scores in order to maintain a higher rank. The meta at the time was to farm newly ranked maps after an influx of scores were set, mainly because new maps didn't give immediate PP, and players would find more benefit in waiting in an attempt not to fall off. The next implementation of a ranking system in Osu was something called PPV2. In fact, it is the current algorithm of the performance point system today. However, even though it's the same name it was 10 years back, the algorithm has drastically changed and is almost unrecognizable from the original implementation. So let's look at the history of PPV2. To set the scene, there was this guy called Tom94. He cheated his way to number 1 in the world during the PPV1 era, so he got banned. But Tom had other ideas. He made something called Osu TP, a predecessor to the eventual PPV2 system. Osu TP was a difficulty calculator that Tom coded all by himself without the help of Pepe, the creator of Osu. And this was pretty significant, since Osu wasn't open source at the time. This calculator was used to measure skill itself by measuring aim, speed, and accuracy, all very important areas of the game. It was so well done that Pepe went to the point where he said Tom could not be trusted, and if you downloaded Osu TP, which was a program at the time, that you would get a virus. This was because he was banned, and that made him untrustworthy supposedly. That's when Tom made a website for Osu TP. This became wildly popular when it was released, and what likely caught Pepe's attention. Basically, every top player would check the Osu TP rankings by the end of 2013, and some like the former number 1 player Wobblewolf kept the forum signature image of his TP rank on his profile. Because of this, Pepe realized that Tom's system was 1 million times better than PPV1, so he decided to unban Tom and bring him into the staff team where Pepe would start making PPV2, just for Tom to help him fix it. So that's a funny story about Osu's creator. It was on the 21st of January 2014 that PPV2 was revealed. Some players were outraged and saw their supposed ranks before PPV2 was officially released on the 27th of January 2014. While this was a significant improvement to the system thanks to the help of Tom, the system was beloved by almost everyone except a few salty players that lost ranks. But like I established earlier, PPV2 is still the current system in place for rank and PP nowadays. However, it doesn't end there, because while there may not be a new PP system, there are things called reworks or rebalances which make adjustments to the PP system in order to fix certain bugs or issues, and keep the game fresh by constantly updating the ranking system. The first time a notable rework took place after the implementation of PPV2 was a year later on the 3rd of February 2015. Tag 4 maps, which are maps meant to be played by 4 players in a multi-lobby, were nerfed. This was because a player by the name of Covster, who was ranked 21,000 at the time, set the PP record of 577 PP on the map UN Owen was her. The problem here was the busted cross-screen jump patterns that normal players wouldn't be able to hit, but touchscreen players would. For those who don't know, Osu can be played on a touchscreen device, alternative to the standard mouse and keyboard or tablet and keyboard combo. After seeing this, the staff decided to completely stop ranking tag 4 maps instead of fixing the issue. That's when the loved category was made. If a map is loved, that means you're unable to gain PP but still have leaderboards to compete against other players. But like I said before, the issues still pertain, which will be important for a future event. The next notable occurrence of a major PP rework was in April 2015, where high CS was nerfed. CS is the circle size. The higher the circle size, the smaller it is, and the lower the circle size, the bigger it is. During this time period, Hard Rock, a mod which makes the map CS higher, when combined with already high CS maps, were extremely overweighted and gave more PP than deserved. Notable players that abused this were Wobblewolf and Index. Index technically set the first 600 PP play on the map Last Journey Home with Hard Rock. However, this is debatable. debatable since this was back when qualified maps were awarded PP, now they don't. Then the number 2 player at the time, Wobblewolf, set a score on the map Sakura Kagitsu with double time and hard rock, technically setting the first official 600 PP play ever. This was a wake up call to Tom and his team, so after 2 days there was a nerf on high CS maps and Wobblewolf's score was reduced to 524 PP. 4 months go by since the high CS nerf took place and everything seemed fine, but there was actually a bug that made certain maps with high CS use the old PP values before the nerf. An example is the map Ice Angel, but this wasn't really a problem since it didn't affect the state of the game or cause too much hassle in the community, and after the bug was found, it was quickly fixed. However, the same can't be said for this next rework. In fact, it was a bit controversial. Remember touchscreen? Well, on the 15th of November 2017, the first 900 PP play was set on High Tide 3 mod with a touchscreen device. This score garnered significant attention and discussion within the OSU community. While many players were impressed by the skill required to achieve such a high PP score using a touchscreen device, others were concerned about the balance and fairness of the PP system in relation to touchscreen plays, especially since Freedom Diver, the person who set the play, was a top 50 player long before this PP record. After all the commotion, PP decided to pull the plug on touchscreen with a rework and the implementation of touchscreen detection, which was a little janky. 1 month later, every touchscreen player and their plays were nerfed hard, turning the first 900 PP play into a 400 PP play. This changed the course of touch device scores for the rest of OSU's history. Right after this, there was radio silence from the OSU team, and that's why after this touchscreen nerf, there were no big PP changes for 3 years, which allowed mappers to abuse the flaws of the system and make it very unfair and stale. This is just to help you visualize a game that had not received any notable updates to its ranking system for 3 whole years. Skip to the 14th of May 2018, and a hidden rebalance is put in place which resulted in Freedom Dive, a popular OSU map, becoming the PP record again, and Cookie Z, one of the most iconic players of all time, even took back the number 1 position in the world. For those who don't know, Hidden is an OSU mod that removes the fade in of approach circles. In the rebalance, it made hidden streams worth more PP and hidden jumps worth less. This really affected FG Sky, a well-recognizable DT and Flashlight OSU player. DT being double time, which increases the map's overall speed by 1.5, and Flashlight being a mod which limits the area playfield view. This rebalance nerfed him again, and basically most hidden jump players in general. But like the talented player he was, he took the PP record back with Shiori 4 mod worth 827 PP. Skip to early 2019 and Zixar, a key figure in the making of newer PP reworks, is on the PP committee. That's a funny name. Anyways, their goals with the rework was to nerf easier jumps and buff more wide angles. At the time, Idki, a former number 1 player, was a pioneer at abusing flow aim maps like Cry Thunder, which was coincidentally the play that got him to number 1 global.
Give me that number 1! Give me that number 1 right now! Let's go! Let's fucking go!
Zixar thought it was time for a change of pace, so this general rebalance took place indirectly nerfing flow aim and buffing jumps. Alongside this massive change, this is actually the rework that gave speed a huge nudge, as any speed maps before 2019 that were above 220 BPM gave basically no PP, so this was the first win for speed players ever, but we'll come back to this. This general rebalance led to one of the most exploitative events in the ranking system ever, and the rise of DT again. I feel like it's important to mention that it's not like DT wasn't prevalent before 2019. These issues were already happening in 2015, except just getting worse and worse over time. Even some of the best and most iconic players in the world like HVic, Phils Delama and Rafis were all making it to top 10 globally using DT. It's just because flow aim got nerfed a ton that DT was able to rise even more in popularity, and mappers understood that making the same formulaic jump maps worked to create some of the most farmable and exploitable maps of all time. A few mappers that enabled this 2019 jump meta were Sotax, Monstrata, Reforms, Only Biscuits, Fiery Rage, and many others. At the time, this was chaos, as everyone and their mum was farming Sotax's Haramachi Clover, a beat map that almost has 110 million plays, and the second most played map in the game. Hell, people are still playing the old 30-second jump farm maps to this day. Just look at these numbers from the old website. It really shows the impact a rework and meta so strong can have on the future state of the game. However, after this, there was silence. Until Zixar came back with his team, as he realized that all of these 3 mod and DT farm map scores from the best players in the world were ruining the integrity of the game. This was quite a complicated year, so let's break it down. Firstly, there was a difficulty spike nerf that nerfed Flashlight players again. They really do hate FG Sky for some reason. Then there was the main general rebalance rework where speed got a buff by a new feature called Rhythm Complexity Judgments. These were supposedly to take into account the speed and strain used on a map, which obviously buffed speed significantly and nerfed TV-sized jump maps. Since speed was the most oppressed skill set at the time other than reading, it continued to get buffed. For example, there used to be a hard cap on BPM to prevent quote-unquote abuse use cases. However, it was removed, and these changes are what completely changed the meta forever. But there was one more huge change, being the slider abuse fix. In this time period, maps like Hitogata and Lost Umbrella were able to give out more PP than necessary due to the fact super fast slider velocity has such a huge impact. Slider velocity is how fast a slider plays at or moves. Just look at these sliders moving super fast.
What the fuck?
This was not supposed to give so much PP and rank, so once it was found, they fixed it. These changes completely shifted the jump meta. A period of 2 long years completely flipped. And now it was time for those who loved playing faster, more intense burst or stream maps to get a piece of that cake too, something that is still prevalent to this day, but we'll talk about that later. Finally, the most recent important rebalance to date is when the beatmap Zane had a broken pattern that enabled users to get more PP than usual. Funny story is that in the previous rework, Zixar knew this pattern was busted, but he didn't care and dared mappers to find it, and find it they did. Needless to say, the PP committee took notice, so they took the chance to input more changes instead of just nerfing the map. For example, they took the opportunity to make improved double tap detection that detected when a map has doubles so close together that you just double tap and play them like a single circle. A key fix in nerfing maps that had crazy 400 BPM plus doubles that broke the speed value. Oh, and they also added accuracy scaling with speed to help fix low accuracy speed plays. They also recalculated touchscreen star ratings, bullying them even more as they couldn't really cheese 10-star maps anymore at the time. I say at the time because they can now, but that's besides the point. However, there was one last important change in this rebalance, and that was in relation to the player Kalanlu. See, Kalanlu is a really talented flashlight player who is able to memorize 23-minute long maps, and on the 5th of August 2022, he was able to set a 1254 PP score on Because Maybe Part 3 with Easy, Halftime, and Flashlight. This was actually the PP record at the time, and after the PP committee saw this, they took the opportunity to nerf it in this rebalance. 2024 is coming to an end, and the top 100 is still filled with predominantly speed players, a meta that has lasted from early 2020 to present day. The community wants change, and it's coming with a combo scaling removal rework, as soon as PP stops being lazy and lets the team implement the changes. But if this pattern continues to persist and the ranking system is not constantly being updated, it really does ruin the competitive drive the community once had.